When we last left our adventurers, Cal was finally looking like himself again, and they decided to head to the Bronze Goblet to confront the thugs threatening Hrod. Torn returns before the group sets out, and Lariel explains what happened with frequent interruptions from the others. Arriving at the Bronze Goblet a short time later, the group sees 2 ogres guarding the door, and several humans and hobgoblins inside. Teleri and Torin overhear one of the ogres tell the other to get the boss before he ducks inside. He returns a short time later, but he is alone. Half an hour passes, and no one has left the bar, nor have the ogres allowed anyone else inside. Alariel comes up with a plan to get us inside peacefully. She begins to perform a song for the bouncers, and the one wearing spectacles is utterly fascinated by it, though the other just punches him in the arm. Alariel asks the spectacled ogre to let the group in, and he convinced the other to allow the group to go through, by putting him in a headlock. As the group enters, the bar patrons fall silent. Alariel tries to use her music once again, but they seem less interested. Cal, Teleri, and Woofy, on the other hand, have suddenly become avid music lovers. Alariel quickly snaps Teleri out of it, who then does the same for Woofy. But the elf sees a good opportunity with Cal. She asks him to confirm that he is who he says he is, which he does. When the song's effects wear off, however, Cal is rather pissed off at Alariel. The bar patrons, meanwhile, are utterly perplexed at what has been happening, and among them the group sees the hobgoblin who is at the Coleridge Crest, sitting at the bar. Now that Alariel has finished performing, she approaches him, trying to find out who he works for. The hobgoblin won't provide any useful information, though, claiming to be an independent contractor providing insurance for the fine inns of the city. Cal, who has more experience working with criminals, steps in now. The hobgoblin, who says he is known as Cheeks, seems unafraid when Cal points out the dangers of messing with Hrod's establishment. In fact, he says that the Phalanx would have an issue with anyone who interfered with his business. However, Cal and the others can stop anything from happening by simply paying what Hrod owes, which turns out to be half of the inn's income. Not willing to pay such an exorbitant bribe, the group leaves. Once they are out of earshot of the bar, Cal asks the others to gather what information they can on the Commandantong's activities in the city, and what connections they have with the Phalanx. Cal himself heads back to the inn to warn Hrod. Torn returns to his monastery and asks his master about the Tong. His master, naturally, gives him a non-answer, telling him to stay away from such criminals. When he asks the other students, however, they say that the master has been meeting with Cheeks, but when Torn goes back and asks his master about the hobgoblin, he denies any knowledge of him. Alariel goes to the other inns who have been threatened by Cheeks, but most refuse to talk about it. She does learn, however, that the owners of the establishments who resisted Cheeks at first had several staff and family members disappear, only to be returned without the flesh of their cheeks. Teleri seeks out the urban druids, and meets with one who spends most of his time as a beagle. He knows all about the thugs from the Bronze Goblet and their protection racket. While he doesn't know of any Phalanx connection, he has sniffed out some magic in and around the bar, and he knows that students from the academy are prohibited from going there. Alexandra makes to the local forges to talk with the hired muscle and traveling warriors. They note that the Tong has few women due to hobgoblin patriarchy, and that they have been making inroads in Takros, but nothing about those here in Izard. Alexandra also goes drinking with these fine gentlemen. Back at the Coleridge Crest, Cal tells Hrod to expect trouble tonight. Hrod is mad that they interfered at all, but agrees that he should gather up his children to keep them safe. The common room drains itself of patrons so that by the time the others get back and discuss what they have found out, the inn is deserted. The group heads out back, where Hrod is sharpening his axe with Billy watching, and agree to set up watches for the night, with one person at the front and one at the back at all times. During the first watch, Torn is keeping an eye on the front, while Teleri is in the back with Billy, who insisted he could help. Other than the sound of Hrod trampling around in his chain shirt, and Billy's incessant stream of questions, the first watch passes peacefully. Cal and Alariel, guarding the front and back respectively, take up the next watch. Not long into the shift, Alariel hears an odd noise, but it doesn't repeat itself. Soon another noise gets Alariel's attention, however, a voice, saying "excuse me," and seeming to come out of nowhere. The voice asks to be let past into the inn so that it may speak with Calaquin, and claims to be Sebastian Burgess. Alariel casts message to relay this information to Cal, and the two switch places. When he gets to the back, Cal tells Sebastian to reveal himself, and now there is a portly mage standing in the yard. Sebastian wants to know what Cal is doing here, defending an inn. Cal explains that he is in town for a job, and that all his contacts know to meet him here. Cal, of course, is equally curious as to what Sebastian is doing here. He was apparently hired by Cheeks to make an example of this inn, and was planning on leaving Billy's head on the bar as a warning to others. But, since Cal is here, Sab won't go ahead with the job. Plus, once he learned of Cheeks' asking price, Sebastian didn't seem thrilled at the idea of working for him. That said, Sebastian will need a couple of favors to repay this kindness. To avoid Ilariel overhearing, Sebastian casts chalkboard and writes them down. The first favor would eliminate their trouble with Cheeks, while the second is a personal matter for Sebastian. Cal says they can handle the first, but the second may be difficult. Sebastian leaves, and Cal heads inside to speak with Ilariel, who has heard everything. Convincing her that the inn is safe for tonight, Cal heads to bed, while Ilariel stays up the rest of the night alone. And this is where we have left off. So, what sort of favors does Sebastian want? Will the group be able to stop Cheeks? Does Cal know anyone who isn't an asshole? Find out next time on the Saga of Wounds to Cal's Chest.